Okay. Hey, I'm Jerry McKee, and welcome to Prime Time. It's Monday at 7 o'clock. We got a great guest here, and it's going to be a scary time, maybe. You know, Halloween's coming up, and if you like to be scared, well, we're going to take you on a behind the scenes, but not everything behind the scenes, because we want you to be scared at West Springs Spook House. And we're going to come back in just a few moments right after our commercial. And if you're going to have any questions whatsoever, I want you to call 864-441-9382. You hear that, West Springs Real Housewives? You know, you got your opportunity now to grill them, okay? Well, I'm Jerry McKee, and we'll be back in just a moment with our guests. Who are you going to...
Jewelry has the power to be this little thing that can make you feel unique. Being a true gentleman never goes out of fashion. People will stare. Make it worth their while. For the woman of your dreams and the jewelry of her dreams, rings, pins, and pendants, fabulous rubies, sparkling sapphires, brilliant diamonds. Keepsake Jewelers. We are the jewelers who understands what dreams are made of. Dreams of gold, dreams of emeralds, and dreams of diamonds in pins, rings, bracelets, and earrings. At Keepsake Jewelers, we have whatever it takes to make her dreams come true. Visit our new location, Keepsake Jewelers, 441 North Duncan Bypass, Suite 5, Union, 864-427-5100, 864-427-5100, Keepsake Jewelers, Union.
All right, David, how are we doing today?
I'm doing really well, Jerry.
That's great. I'm glad you to be here because Halloween is next week.
About a week away, absolutely.
It is. What, next Tuesday, I believe it is.
Tuesday night, 31st.
Oh, wow. And guys, you're going to have some scary things to see if you come out to the West Springs Spook House. Now, David, tell me a little bit about... my understanding that I've heard is that the Spook House is one of the longest running spook houses in our county.
It's definitely the longest running one in the county, if not in the nation. In a few minutes, we can get into the details about how long the Spook House has been running, the West Springs Spook House. But this year will be our 49th year of operations, with only 1 year during COVID, which we did not open up.
49 years, wow.
We were debating if this year was the 50th year, but Bucky Sprouse was adamant that even though the Spook House started in 1973, it was 1974 when we started operating in the current building we are currently at.
Well, who started? Who said, 49 years ago? Who said, "Hey, let's do a Spook House"?
Well, what I've heard is Bucky Sprouse and probably Randall Bogan, Marshall Bogan, a bunch of gentlemen out in West Springs. Wayne Henderson was, from my understanding, trying to do something for the community and operate a little burger barn or spook house, whatever you want to call it. But the first year that was in operation was in 1973 in a barn that Bucky Sprouse owned. And I don't know many details. I was not even born at that time, but they used that barn, and then they decided to move it over to the West Springs Community Center, where it's currently been ever since then.
Now, 49 years ago, I can imagine you really don't have the the outfits that people wear 49 years ago. Can you imagine that we didn't have like Myers at Friday the 13th, and you didn't have all this other good, cool stuff that you can dress up people in, and you can dress up the sound effects, the special effects. Back then, you had to be kind of creative. I know that when I went uh, Halloween trick or treat and stuff like that, you know, we had to dress like hobos or whatever like that. We get creative, you know. We got into the mom's makeups and things and ruined that for them. But I imagine it had to be kind of creative. First, let's tell people where this spook house is at.
Sure. The West Springs Spook House, we are located at the community center in West Springs off of Highway 215. It's about a mile from the Spartanburg-Union County line. I cannot remember the exact address. I believe it's a Pauline address since it cuts off right there. But we do have a Google page, so if you just simply look up West Springs Spook House, you should at least be able to get the address. We're not open all year, but that's about the easiest way I could get the information out there to the public. We created that about 5 years ago.
It's on Facebook, that page.
Facebook, yes, West Springs Spook House.
Okay, so that's easy enough to put in there. I think I did Google it, plus went there and looked at it. You know, most people thinks that this is an easy task of putting this event on, especially at the magnitude, because every year I hear about this spook house. I haven't been yet. I have to kick myself. I'm not
Really?
going. I've got to go.
All these years.
All these years. I guess I'm more. I see things in abstract, so it don't scare me as much.
We haven't been inside the spook house, so we probably would have scared you.
That's right. I've heard about it through Emmy Lou and Scarlett, and they easy to scare. But how did you get to be? I don't want to say director, or kind of taking over the operations of putting this together. Did somebody just come up to you and say, "Hey, we want to give this to you"? How did you blend in to this? Of course, not everybody just could say, "I want you to start this. I want you to do this." You have to.
Well, that's a great question. And back in the early days, it's usually revolving about just one person stepping up and taking the lead and trying to manage everything on the construction on the inside, and discussing with the community club members on the nights we would want to have it. Back in the early days, it was usually a Tuesday or Thursday night. People would come up there and work on it for about an hour and a half until we got it ready for the opening night. So it goes through generations of different people taking ownership of it. I have been running it for the last 8 years. But there have been other ones before, maybe since I've been in the military, and still am. I have been deployed and in Germany, so there were times I wasn't around to even help out. So other people have stepped up. Brad Foster has done it for many years, and but I can say after about 10 to 12 years, it really starts taking a toll on you, because either you start running out of ideas yourself, or it's just the time it takes to put into it is more than people realize, because we don't want to do the same thing every year inside the spook house.
Right, because you want something different to bring people back that's been through it one time before, because they'll be expecting the same thing over. Now, when do you start preparing? Because you can't just say all of a sudden, okay, we're going to do it, come out today, and and do it all in one night.
Well, it just depends, because there's no air conditioning inside there, and trying to go up to this old building that was built in, I think, 1912. September in the South is a miserable experience sometimes, and so either you can get up there early to start tearing some things down to get ready to start putting things up, but it really lately has been started right around the 1st of October. We'll go for about 3 weeks, pretty hard, trying to get it ready for this coming weekend.
Well, one thing about this year, fall has really come in to me like it's supposed to.
Yes,
it's cooler weather, and I can imagine running the spook house. You're there, and you got all these makeup, you got all this stuff on here, sweating, and now it's going to get a little break there with the cooler weather. Now, as a kid, when you grew up, did you dress up anything as Halloween?
Yes and no. I would say that my twin brother and I, Darren, he's just retired active duty, but he still lives in San Antonio with his wife who's serving. But he would be home definitely if he was around and not there. So we started going through when we were in an early age also, just visiting the spook house and going through, but mesmerized by it. My brother probably a little more so than I was, but the spook house was unique in that they were able to use, I would say, some high quality latex masks that were probably not what you would see at Walmart. They were usually bought through Morris Costumes out of Charlotte, North Carolina. The majority of them were by a company called Distortions Unlimited, or a not Morris Costumes, Ben Cooper mask, or I'm trying to think of the big one that made the universal mask. Well, it'll hit me in a minute. But those masks were above and beyond more than what people would normally see. And so they gave an extra allure inside the spook house because people weren't accustomed to seeing these things like that.
Right, they just custom like the
Ben Cooper plastic mask.
Put them over, and you got the plastic, you can't see out them too well. Or someone if someone gets really creative and know how to do some face painting, can get creative that way.
Yeah, it wasn't people running around with sheets over their heads with eyes cut out to be pretending to be a ghost or anything like that.
Yeah, that was my thing was. But as growing up, did you any particular spook houses that you went to that you brought back any memories? I know we got Scare Winds and we got some others that's around our.
Well, I would say when we're in the 80s, you didn't really have a whole lot of this. You would have the JC haunted houses. I know Buffalo had one up here on Mount Lebanon Road for a little while. And then there was the West Springs Spook House. And I'm sure there's some other ones that popped up from here to there from time to time that would run for a couple of seasons. But just like Wampus Woods, they're not running anymore. And the closest one besides Spook House in this area would be probably, I think, Booger Jim's up in Blacksburg, or Mad World up in Greenville, which are much bigger productions than what we can put on. Obviously, we try to focus the West Springs Spook House more as a community engagement, something fun for the people of Union County to come out to. So that's why we don't charge exuberant amounts for people to come in, and try to keep it low enough so the families can bring their kids out and have a good time with them, and maybe we can give the kids a good scare, but also get the mom and dad sometimes a good scare as they come through.
Well, I know that 49 years, that tells you right there is a good quality and good family fun, because you wouldn't have lasted 49 years, because look at the others that fell by the wayside. Even some of the bigger production ones has been gone away.
They have.
And West Springs put on a lot of neat stuff. From the fireworks, they have a great fireworks display. They have parades. I was trying to get there for the last parade that you have there. But I couldn't make it to live stream that one because I tried to go around get all the parades, and they probably have one this year, a Christmas parade, I would say.
Sometimes we do a Christmas parade, but definitely the 4th of July parade has been a staple for the community since, I think, the bicentennial year of '76, the year I was born.
Wow.
It's been going as long as I can remember. So it's either, I could be wrong, '76 or '78 was the first year the community had that. And the fireworks have, blossom under Marshall Bogan's vision of the event that he puts on. It's no longer the small moon rockets and firecrackers, and what he does every year, it amazes me how long he can make it run and give the community a great event, and as well as Union County people coming out to enjoy it.
Now, how many people does it take to run West Springs Spook House? Does it vary, or?
It can vary from year to year based off of the number of rooms we decide to put into it. So if you've ever been into the West Springs Spook House, it's different in the fact that ours is a guided event. So we try to work the crowd up as they come in. We can go from as minimum as a small group of 6 up to a big group of 12. It's just how much do you want to get crowded in here? It doesn't matter to me. I can take 20 if you want me to, but you won't see everything if we get to too big of a group. But there are some tricks that we have in the Spook House that have been staples inside. That I'm not going to spoil them. You have to come out and see them for yourself.
Right.
But we do have certain gadgets that we've used throughout the years that still amaze people on how we do them. And the only way you're going to find out how they work is either if you volunteer to come work with us, or you know somebody who's worked in there in the past and might explain it to you. But you know, the building, being as old as it is, 1912, the Boy Scouts cleared it out because it was a cannery at one time for the community of West Springs, and the farmers would get their goods canned. So it was a mess inside there.
Well, I didn't know that they did had a cannery there.
They sure did. So once the Boy Scouts cleaned it out, the first few years they would just simply run a drop cord down there for the lights and everything, and we've gotten a little more extravagant since then with our lighting ability. And the first year it was just kind of walking around, look on the sides, looking at different exhibits, and we've grown it to where it's a challenging, I would say a maze, to try to get through it every year. But you will have a guide with you to get you through there the entire time.
Now, if someone wants to volunteer, and you got people who will say, "Oh gosh, I wish I could be a volunteer, or do something like that," how would they get in touch with you or someone to be able to do that?
I would love to take any volunteers. We're not going to usually turn anybody away from volunteering. We'll feed you some hot dogs and give you some cold drinks throughout the night, but it is a voluntary basis. We're not going to pay anybody to come in because all the proceeds go back to the community.
Right.
But we value volunteers. They're taking their time out of their schedule to 2 nights, 4 nights, ever how many nights we decide to stay open, and some nights go very late.
I can imagine we're going to, when we come back after this commercial right here, we're going to talk a little bit about, we're going to talk a little bit, what's the theme that you're having? Do you have different themes each year?
We'll talk about that.
We'll come back right after this message from Keepsake Jewelers. Hey, get your jewelry there because you don't want to be scared away.
Jewelry has the power to be this little thing that can make you feel unique. Being a true gentleman never goes out of fashion. People will stare. Make it worth their while. For the woman of your dreams and the jewelry of her dreams, rings, pins, and pendants. Fabulous rubies, sparkling sapphires, brilliant diamonds. Keepsake Jewelers. We are the jewelers who understands what dreams are made of. Dreams of gold, dreams of emeralds, and dreams of diamonds in pins, rings, bracelets, and earrings. At Keepsake Jewelers, we have whatever it takes to make her dreams come true. Visit our new location, Keepsake Jewelers, 441 North Duncan Bypass, Suite 5, Union, 864-427-5100, 864-427-5100, Keepsake Jewelers, Union.
Okay, we're back, and we're talking to David Fowler about the Spook House in West Springs. Now, we have themes that we use in different things. Everything's got a theme, it seems like. And do you have a particular theme this year?
Right now, it's probably going to still be the Legends of West Springs. Back in the 80s, there really was never a strong theme for the West Springs Spook House. It was just different scenes that you would go through. It seems the themes have kind of developed in the last 10 to 15 years, and sometimes we try to apply the themes inside the Spook House, either it be a zombie theme or a clown theme, or, you know, you can only recycle so much of the themes for Halloween over and over. I personally prefer small themes, just because it keeps my thinking simple whenever I'm trying to design the Spook House each and every year. Clowns, I don't hate clowns, but I think they're very cliche during Halloween season, and I'm not a big fan of trying to put them into the West Springs Spook House sometimes.
Right. Some of the movies with it. And
yes.
The scary clowns, and some people actually are scared of clowns even in the regular. Out of season.
But we have our own monster for the Spook House, and it's the Legend of the Wayne Doodle from West Springs. And you will see him inside the Spook House each and every year. He does come out of hiding at that time to mainly find some little kids to take home back to his lair.
And what is the legend?
The Legend of Wayne Doodle. Part man, part goat. There's people who've heard of him and talked about him in Woodruff as well as in West Springs. But it's a mythical creature that roams around the gold mines and around the West Springs, Glen Springs area. Some say he eats goats, some cows, chickens, but he's a little vicious sometimes. You got to watch out for him.
So the gold mines in West Springs. So there were some gold mines
There
there.
were some gold mines in West Springs.
So a lot of people don't even know some of this
A lot
history
of great
there.
history. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I know that I used to do some ghost hunts, and I had a lot of houses, even not the West Springs, Cross Keys house. We did a program in there for the museum about someone seeing the lady in the window, and of course we talked about that, and Hounds of Goshen with
I've heard of him.
yeah, that's close by towards Whitmire,
Yep.
down in that area, and all around our county we have got some good ghost stories that creep up. So so he could be a really that someone's seen this.
I'm sure as people start talking about him, I'm sure there's some sightings that have been happening lately, and he might creep in. You never know.
And
It could be me.
we'll see. It all depends on the full moon. I mean,
does.
does it have to be a full moon? Maybe.
Not necessarily for the Wayne Doodle.
Yeah. And now, what dates and times will people be able to come to the Spook House?
So we're only open up 2 nights this year. This coming Saturday, the 28th, we will try to get the doors open about 7:30, 8 o'clock, kind of when it gets dark enough, and I can kind of massage people into their positions to start opening doors up, getting people in. And we'll start selling chicken stew, I think about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the community center at the West Springs ball field. So if you want some fresh homemade chicken stew, the 28th, come up and get some.
Now, my understanding, the West Springs is famous for that chicken stew.
We sell out every year.
Oh, wow. Do you have certain ones that make it every year that got that secret recipe, kind of like
We have
Kentucky Fried Chicken does?
some really bona fide West Springs cooks who can put it together for us each and every year. Again, it's a volunteer event, so
Right.
but the service is exquisite. The chicken stew might be a little spicy for some people. I think it's great. I like it's comparable to Midway's, so but maybe a little bit better because it's not as batched up like Midway's is.
Right.
It comes around once a year.
Now, do you have other foods there? Any food vendors or?
No other food vendors. We will have some hot dogs and stuff like that if you don't like chicken stew. But mostly the community members bring the sides, the desserts up, and they spend most of the day preparing it so it can be ready by 5 o'clock.
Desserts is my.
Is that your forte?
Oh yes, yeah. We go family reunion. We got everything. I go to desserts first.
And my dad's the same way. He guards the dessert table at any kind of church function, or family
Oh
function.
yeah, because you don't want to mess that up by eating regular food.
You wouldn't want to. Absolutely
Like
not.
that. Now, how much does it cost to go into the Spook House?
Well, back in the old days, it was $2 a person. That was in the 80s, and the line would stretch up to the schoolhouse sometimes. But right now, we're charging $5 per person, and that will be the cost this year. Next year, being the 50th, we might go up to about $10 because we're planning a pretty extravagant show, great show for next year. And so,
Well, so you already got some plans.
we do. We've been
Working
working on
on-
plans.
Well, that's great. Now, how long does it take to actually go through from one end? to
One
Spook
end,
House
from
to
the
the
time you go one in the door and out the other.
Right.
Usually about 8 to 10 minutes per group, depending on how riled up some of them can get. As a guide, I get to see a lot of stuff through there, and either if the crowd's just being a crowd, I'll still give them a good show, but they won't be as fun as some of the other ones who are more worked up to enjoy themselves inside the Spook House.
And it all depends on if they get scared enough or how fast they want to get through there.
Exactly. And they know when they're in the back room ready to get out because they know what's going to get them at the end of the Spook House, and you're not getting out until I let you get out. But we do take safety pretty serious inside the Spook House. We're not going to do anything to injure or harm anybody. There's no flame effects or anything like that inside there because there's no fire suppression system. So we got to be careful. But it's mostly lit throughout. It's not a pitch black event. And somebody will be with you at all times to explain what's going on, where to go next, because it is amazing inside there. And we'll give you about 5, 6 different scares throughout in different rooms or different scenes that we'll have you go through.
So, because you got little ones that wants to come through there,
Yep.
and they a little scary at first to get through there, and I'm glad you don't have it just black out
Right.
like that.
It's
Because
not fun.
That wouldn't be, to me, not a safety issue.
Yeah.
You know. So, how many people do you usually have come through there? I mean, I've heard about everybody I ever talked to says, "Oh yeah, I've been through there." You know. And,
So the weekends are always better nights. We've had the Spook House open on some weeknights, and you might maybe get 30 or 60 people. So there's kind of off nights on the weeknights, but the weekends we can run up to about 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and maybe up to 2, 3, 400 people. It just depends on the night.
Right.
And I know for some people it's kind of a long wait to get through there because we're trying to give people a show, and if we get too bogged down, we'll start running 2 groups in at one time so that we can try to get the crowd through, because I know people don't like standing in line for a long time. But we want to give you a show, and that's why we're asking you to be a little bit patient with us, because
Right.
it's going to be a lot of fun inside there for you. You can interact with us; we'll interact with you just right back. And yeah, we don't do demonic stuff or anything
Right.
like that. It's because I understand there's going to be kids coming through there, so it can be pretty tame by some standards. It's not real gory or anything. Gore can be kind of in poor taste sometimes too.
Right, and you don't want to have somebody nightmares, and it's we got enough gore as it is, but it's enough because when I put some scary shows together, I'll write some horror stories, and when I put them together like that, I use music as more as a scare tactic than anything, because especially when they're intrigued into, I took some at the university about productions and things, and I know how a right and left brain has a big effect,
It does.
and how to position things that's going to scare you, and put the music in there in the right time where you're thinking it's okay, and you go boom, and and that type of scare to me is just about better than anything than any gore.
Well, and the scare factor itself has changed in the last 3 or 4 decades. Back in the 80s, you could pretty much put anything in the Spook House and make it dark enough, people would get a good scare out of it, because it was the slashers, the Freddys, the Jasons, and the Michael Myers back then.
Right.
And some really cheap B-rate horror movies that people will relate to. But the haunt industry got more and more sophisticated, and the amusement parks started jumping on board, opening their haunt nights, and so it is really much harder to scare people nowadays. And I well know that for some people coming in, I can tell who is going to be scared, who's a little jumpy. You got the teenage crowds, you got the little kid crowds, and you got the old adult crowds, and then you got some really great groups that come through. I have a phenomenal time. Last year I literally watched a mom get trampled by her 4 kids coming out of the Spook House, and I felt bad for her. I try not to laugh too bad, but I did help her up, and she started raising Cain with her kids because she was eating dirt for a few minutes as they ran her over going out. But there's other times that my brother's made people pee in their pants because of the trick that he was doing. And back in the 80s when it was Wayne Henderson, Wayne McDaniel, Randall Bogan, Marshall Bogan, oh gosh, I can go through the whole list about West Springs gentlemen who have helped out in it. But Alan West had these great flame effects back in the 80s that
Right.
just would blow you away what he was able to do. I still have one prop that we use inside the Spook House that he built, but for safety reasons, I can't put fire in there anymore, and I wouldn't do that because it would just be really dangerous.
Do you do anything outside, or is all of it contained inside the building?
For insurance purposes, we kind of keep it all contained inside. I don't want people being chased by a chainsaw through a bunch of cars, parked cars, or something like that. So, we might send a chainsaw or a booger through the crowd to get them riled up, to keep them entertained while they're waiting in line. But I don't want anybody to run off to the woods and run to a tree or something like that. So I had to be careful about things.
Well, I know this one place has a haunted, what is it, the trees that you go through and stuff like that. I can imagine someone getting hurt running through there, getting scared, because you got to. It's a fun thing. It's not something that you don't want anyone, of course, to get hurt. Besides the woman getting trampled over like that, is anything that's in 8 years that really just made you just so laugh so hard, and maybe y'all even talked about it after the groups is gone, and you're sitting back and getting shut down?
It's there have been people who have broken walls down from the scare would come at them, and they all go against the wall, and the wall wasn't as structurally secure, and the wall would give way sometimes. We've had to go back and repair walls before we let the next group in. But some places we keep you pretty tight, and you're not getting away from the scare that we're going to throw at you. Some years they don't even know where the scare is going to be coming from. So some of the things have evolved. There's one room I kind of have kept the same for historical reasons, probably two of them that have lasted for generations. Just because it's been a staple of the Spook House, and we like to keep some of that history there. But some other places, I do my best to mix it up, or somebody else will come in and try to do a great something that we've never thought of before, and that works.
Well, even with the ones that you got there, and people come and say, "Well, I've been through there, and I've been through this one room. I know it's historical, but you can, even though the room's the same, you can change positions." That way they think, "Oh, it's going to come from right there. I've been through this one right here. I'm looking for that one," and it comes behind them.
It has, and sometimes we, I hate to say it, but play jokes on the other boogers inside there that catches the crowd off, keeps the crowd on their toes sometimes too. And I will say, if you've been a previous booger inside the Spook House, then we're going to go after you probably a little bit harder than probably the crowd themselves, because not only do you know what's going on inside there, but you've got the history with us, so we're going to make sure that you have a good time inside there. And even the daughters of some of the boogers that we know will come through, that they get picked on a bit more than what other people would.
Well, we're going to come back because I want to ask you about the macho guys that comes through with their girls and saying, "I'm not going to be scared of this right here," and how they kind of wimp out. So I want to ask you a little bit of questions about that. And I also want to ask you a little bit about sound effects right after this commercial from Keepsake Jewelers.
Jewelry has the power to be this little thing that can make you feel unique. Being a true gentleman never goes out of fashion. People will stare. Make it worth their while. For the woman of your dreams and the jewelry of her dreams, rings, pins, and pendants, fabulous rubies, sparkling sapphires, brilliant diamonds. Keepsake Jewelers. We are the jewelers who understands what dreams are made of. Dreams of gold, dreams of emeralds, and dreams of diamonds in pins, rings, bracelets, and earrings. At Keepsake Jewelers, we have whatever it takes to make her dreams come true. Visit our new location, Keepsake Jewelers, 441 North Duncan Bypass, Suite 5, Union, 864-427-5100, 864-427-5100, Keepsake Jewelers, Union.
A lot better than what it was in the past. About the extent of our sound system was a train horn going off when something got opened up.
Right.
But Marshall had his up there too.
All right, we're back, and we're talking to David Fowler. And if you want any questions, you can call 864-441-9382 if you have a question for him, or if you want to volunteer, or if you got some ideas, or anything like that.
I'm open to ideas.
He's open to ideas. Now, we was talking about the macho, sometimes teens, and I know if I got back then when I was growing up and dating and got my girlfriend, I'm going to show her that, you just stick with me, You're
going to be okay.
You're going to be okay. Have you ever seen that fall through?
Actually, I have. It's worse if you're the macho guy and somebody in there knows you. You're probably going to get a little warmer welcome inside there than some other people will. So not only will they express themselves to that person, the monsters express themselves to that person, but they're going to try their best to get a scare out of them. And I guarantee you I can get you in one or two places that you're not going to expect something.
Yeah, and I can see, the girl when she go leave it down there says, "You wasn't no help,"
Exactly. Why'd you leave me or something
Yeah,
like
you
that?
pushed me back and ran.
Why were you pushing me into the chainsaw guy and away from the chainsaw guy? Well, a lot of help you've been for me tonight.
Take her.
Yeah.
Now, another question people usually want to know too is going through a spook house like that, will they be handled?
No, I will not allow full body handling. Now, there might be some tickling of the ankles or something like that, but for this day and age, no, you cannot be touching anybody inside there.
Right, because a lot of people have that fear of, so I don't want to be grabbed, I don't want to be, anything like that.
They will not grab you. There have been times in the past where some things like that happened, and it did not end well. So I will ensure with those guys that it doesn't happen, that they have expressed limitations of what they can and cannot do.
Right, and that's good because, it's, you got liability nowadays, and people in general don't like to be touched, even if you're talking to them. Say, "Hey, how you doing?" Something like that. They don't really care for that too much.
Personal bubbles have gotten much bigger in life lately.
Right, and now we talked about the sound effects and some of your sound effects. Is it like some scary music or?
It might be scary music. It could be fun music. I would say first rule of haunted house is don't give us your name, because that makes your life a long night in the spook house at that point, because now you're a targeted person coming through. And
well, the spirits, they hear your name. If they say your name, you're in trouble.
They get attached to you, and that's just going to follow you the rest of the way through the haunted house. I'm sorry.
And and nobody doesn't like a voice coming from nowhere speaking your name. It was like one of the movies that told the guy, it's really kind of economy like, and the thing in the haunted house says, "Get out." He said, "I'm gone."
True.
Now, do you go to any other spook houses that's maybe started before yours, or that you went in and just wanted to see some of their operations?
I have been through Wampus Wood. I have not made it up to what's the one in Greenville again? Mad World Traction. I have been to Scarowinds. The bad thing about Scarowinds and some of the that are free events is you're getting herded through their haunted houses pretty quickly, so you can't take everything in. And that's kind of the way most modern professional haunted houses are. You're going through as a group, but they're pushing you through the entire time in a certain direction.
Because they want to get as many through there as they can.
It's a money thing for
and
them.
very quickly.
Yeah.
And they a lot costly.
They are much more costly.
Yes. Now, a lot of people in Union say that we don't have too many places to go or anything to entertain. Here's the entertainment right here. They're coming up.
Homegrown.
And also, let's talk about the Real Housewives of West Springs. They've got, was it Trunk and Treat?
They got a trunk or treat Saturday night coming up. I believe it's at 4:00 maybe.
I think it's around in there. Girls, if we got it wrong, you can correct us. But now will they be dressed up when they give it out?
A few of them will be dressed up. West Springs witches, maybe. I'm not sure, or some unicorns. I don't know what their theme will be this year.
Are they dressed up as witches? I mean, I'm thinking, isn't that year round?
Sometimes. Sometimes.
Emmylou, I think it's. Well, and the little ones will bring by there to get some candy.
Yeah, get some candy and bring the little ones in the spook house. We'll give them a good time too, and the parents will keep them calm and talk about how it's going to be all okay for them, and we'll have a good time with the kids too. We can keep it tamed down for them if you want to bring them through. Just let the guide know up front. And
right. Now, do you have y'all contacted any of the schools that they can maybe have a special time to maybe bring some kids over, or I know that sometimes they go on field trips, sometimes they go and take them to like the pumpkin patches and stuff like that. I'm just wondering if y'all thought about maybe doing something like that.
A really great idea. That is something we probably need to look at for next year. But the answer is no. We have never looked at anything like that. Now, they have told me stories in the 80s that on Sunday nights when they were open, church groups would come through, youth groups, or gospel singers have even come through before to go through the Spook House. And, if you've never been by the West Springs Ball, there's plenty of parking. No, it's all free parking. Just find you a spot and come up and get your ticket, come through. Or go inside the schoolhouse to get some refreshments, whatever they might have. They'll be glad to accommodate you in any way. A lot of good people work up there and work really hard planning this event out, spending their time on a Saturday cooking the chicken stew, or the monsters working in the Spook House. And it is truly a community event to bring this together, as well as the 4th of July event every year. Just a lot of people sacrifice their time for these things.
Well, maybe next year I can get with you and we'll do like a commercial through.
Love the idea.
So that way that people can look and see just not the whole thing, but enough to like tell a story about the goat man,
The Wayne Doodle.
The Wayne Doodle.
Wayne Doodle.
Wayne Doodle. Okay, and some things like that, and just kind of move through there,
Sure.
and maybe have a little darker than normal. Or I can always put the infrared on, and we do some stuff there that we can promote. And to be able to see a visual little bit of this.
Well, Miss Youngblood has come through before when she was doing the Union channel, and she's filmed it before from inside. So we can accommodate that if you want to do that.
Right, because I know sometimes people I usually use it down like 2 or 3 minutes because nobody doesn't anymore patiently like to watch a long video.
Right.
But they do see little snippets of it. That's why they get these reels.
Mm-hmm.
They come on where they have a few seconds, a few minutes, or whatever like that. But that's something that we'll talk about for next year.
Sure.
I'll be in contact.
It won't
with
be the
you.
same the following year, so I'm not going to be spoiling anything.
Exactly. It's going to be something totally different.
Right.
Now, do you watch horror movies?
Not a whole lot. I don't like jump scares whatsoever. You can ask my wife or my son. I will have a pillow in my face before any kind of jump scares come up, because they always lead up to it, no, I don't like. I can watch it. I don't mind it. Slasher movies and the cliche, but the Conjuring or any of those movies, I cannot stand watching them. I'll watch them, but I won't enjoy myself watching them.
Ginger Billy did one on it that was so funny.
I did see that one.
It was just so funny. And he comes up with some wild ideas on his. Now I know that when I'm putting some scary movies together or making one, I use sound effects a lot, and my wife has to leave the room because when I say she's putting the music into it, she says, "Can't handle this." She leaves, even though she's not watching what I'm doing, but she hears that, and she knows that I use certain ones, and I can show her, and all of a sudden, like you said, boom, and it shocks you.
It does.
And she can't stand it. She's like you. She cannot stand to see that shockwave.
And surprisingly, most haunted houses, the jump scares are what gets most people nowadays, because they're expecting something as they're moving through any haunted house, whether it be a Carowinds or Mad World or a professional haunt. But who's to say I don't have those inside the West Springs Spook House that you're not expecting? But you never know. Come through and find out.
That's right. You got to come out and see for your own self. And then you can tell your friends, but you know what? Most time it's not in the same place, is it?
It's not, never.
Well, that's the key thing. You got 49 years, and so you really got to be, as technology goes, and people change from 49 years to now, you've really got to be creative. And some of the creativities, when you get with your group together like that and brainstorm, is it very productive? Is it? Do you have some new ideas that comes in that you can weigh out? And I know some that you have to kind of reject.
There have been some that I've had to reject, either because I thought it was crossing a line, or I was scratching my head trying to figure out, well, what are you trying to get a scare out of on this? Because I'm not getting it, and if I'm not going to get it, it might be hard for somebody to interpret what you're trying to go after. But for the most part, in the West Springs Spook House, it's going to be more of the classical scares
Right.
that you're even through some of the special effects that have come and gone throughout the years. We might bring something that was back in the 80s back next year. Yeah, it just depends on how much the volunteer is willing to put into the exhibit or the show that they want to do.
Now, the volunteers, do you tell them, okay, this is what I want you to dress up as, this is what I want you to do here, or do they present themselves, okay, this is what I can do, this is what right here, almost like a audition, and just in a sense.
Well, we don't really do auditions. Unfortunately, some years in the past, the volunteers did not show up as they said they would come out. So you have to improvise on the spot. Okay, I think you need to be here. I need you to be here, and just say, and then we do a quick little powwow or talk about this is what's going to happen when I bring them in, what's going to be talked about, and then this is what I expect you to do to try to get the scare out of them. Other times it's just, hey, just improvise. You do what you want to do. I'll make sure it doesn't get out of hand, but just have fun with them, and that's
Right.
the whole goal. So have fun inside there.
Do you have trial runs?
Some years we do, some years we don't. Just depends on when we're trying to get the doors open. And the first group might be a little rough, but by the third or fourth group, people have kind of gotten a routine down on what they're going to do.
Right. I didn't know if you had maybe get with a certain group, said, okay, I'm going to take you 12 through the spook house, and you're going to be our trial run.
We have done that in the past, and then we'll actually walk them right back to the front and say we're going to reset it, and now run it through again with these same people. But you got to be careful because there's a line usually most of the time, and you have to start, getting those people in also. So it's time consuming, and it's a process.
Yeah, just might have to be. And maybe if you took the night before or something, had 12, and where you can kind of take them through and then critique and say, okay, well, then you see yourself, well, this is where we need to put more into this, or
Well, I would say, back in the '80s, that didn't happen a whole lot because
Right.
these were trained professional boogers back then because they've been doing it so long. But as we're now in the third generation of boogers, believe it
Right.
or not, from either their grandpa working in it or their dad working in it, and really for the volunteers, the most I expect out of them is 3 to 4 years before they move on and say they just kind of had enough of it because it's wore them out that much.
right, and it takes a little bit of time from them. I mean,
does.
and that's one thing that's got to it takes them away from their family time. And we'll go back and ask about
The Real Housewives working in there.
yeah.
The West Springs.
that would be scary. I don't know if I would go through there or not, but we'll be right back right after these messages from Keepsake.
Jewelry has the power to be this little thing that can make you feel unique. Being a true gentleman never goes out of fashion. People will stare. Make it worth their while. For the woman of your dreams and the jewelry of her dreams, rings, pins, and pendants, fabulous rubies, sparkling sapphires, brilliant diamonds. Keepsake Jewelers. We are the jewelers who understands what dreams are made of. Dreams of gold, dreams of emeralds, and dreams of diamonds in pins, rings, bracelets, and earrings. At Keepsake Jewelers, we have whatever it takes to make her dreams come true. Visit our new location, Keepsake Jewelers, 441 North Duncan Bypass, Suite 5, Union, 864-427-5100, 864-427-5100, Keepsake Jewelers, Union.
All right, we're back, and we're talking with David Fowler, and we're talking about the West Springs Spook House. And when your group gets together, and I know sometimes you brainstorms, and then you got someone that will come up and call you and say, hey, you know what? This year, I got something, let's try. And do you vote on it, or do you have someone's lead that says, okay, yay or nay, or you have a consensus?
I wouldn't say we really have a consensus anymore. For the most part, if somebody has an idea and they want to run with it, if, like I said in the last segment, if it's a pretty decent idea, I'll let them go ahead and start taking the room, building it up, and doing what they want to with it. I found that if the volunteer comes in and say, I want to help out early enough, I'll say, do you want to do your own space in here? He'll say yes or no. If it's yes, I'll say, this is your area. You do what you want to with it. I'll try to work the themes around it the best I can. But most times, like I said, as I said earlier, we're not always going after things. We're going after the scares inside there.
Right.
Because we're so limited on our space. It's not a huge building. It looks a lot bigger once you're on the inside than it really is. But it may or may not be tight as you
Well,
go
after
through.
you put up the walls and the maze and kind of going through there, that takes up space on it too. So actually, so you volunteers, you say, okay, this is your area.
Mm-hmm.
Work it
Work it.
and put what you want up in it or whatever like that. And
I've had some great effects. One year, I would say probably about 2004, 2005, it was a Wake the Dead scene. And we had sound effects come in. We're not doing it this year, but you were lined up in a single row looking over the cemetery, and you didn't know that there was 3 actors hiding inside that cemetery that's going to come at you because they blended in so well. And then once the tune of the music got to a certain point, because it just elevated slowly, building that tension up, and then once the certain beat hit, they all popped out on cue, and the guest had nowhere to go because they're sandwiched between a wall and the scene. So you can go left or right, but you're not going forward or backwards, and they're just having to take it, yelling and screaming and jumping over each other, trying to get out of the way of the actors. And that was one of the best scenes I've ever seen that took effect in the Spook House. Outside of some of the special effects in the back room, we try to give a decent finale before we send them out also.
right. Well, I know some of the scary movies that's coming out or has come out. It really it still keeps going back to some of the older school stuff, almost like repeating itself. Just same thing, but different. What Friday the 13th, number 27. You know, how much more do you do there? And and I think the old school is really better than some of the new stuff here because the only thing the new to me, it 2, it 3, you know, it just keeps going back to the same character and the same thing, and you kind of expect it. Now, the scary one, like The Shining,
Mhm.
you know, the 2 little girls standing there in the long hallway. To me, that was scary.
Perception of what you're seeing sometimes.
Right.
Absolutely. So, we have had certain effects inside the Spook House for many years. The Wayne Doodle is the predominant one that
Right.
is our mascot for the Spook House, if you will. But there's been some other tricks that Bucky Sprouse has done and that they've come up throughout the years that they've come and gone just depending because it's time consuming either to build some of these props up.
Right.
Or you might build it too big and then you realize you can't get into the door sometimes to put it where it needs to go without having to tear down half the Spook House, put it back where, and then build everything back around it. But I will say that we do have 2 old school effects that are continuing on in there right now, and you'll be greeted with the first one as soon as you come in. Can't spoil it. You got to come in and see what it is.
Come and see what it is. Yeah. Now, we'll let folks know that all the proceeds goes back to the community fund, right?
They do.
To be able to have things better and to continue to have this to go into this 51st year or 50th year, because you had to skip COVID year, but that's 50 years going into the.
We're always hoping to have a longer and brighter 4th of July fireworks show every year. And, the West Springs celebration is always the weekend before the 4th of July. So if you're planning ahead, that's when it will be. But we pride ourselves in this community. A lot of great people are out in West Springs, and I was blessed to grow up out there and have these memories, knowing that there's something growing up all these years that's still lasting today that we can share with our kids.
Well, you can tell the community there just loves that area. I watched the redoing of the ball field. It was the bleachers or something they put in there, and
the shed that
the shed,
the county
yeah.
supervisor had put in, yes.
right. And to me, that just shows that small community, like you're driving out into the country, and it's really got a lot of things going in. It's got a lot of people that loves that community,
We do.
and you can tell by the things y'all have. Like I said, even the 4th of July, the great fireworks and with the community, all the other things that you have going on during that time. And y'all have these big yard sales there sometimes too.
Sometimes they do. I've seen different posts of some kind of, is it ornithology or bird show that goes on? I'm not sure what it was, or it was just these different shows. We've even had a cornhole tournament out there before. But the land's owned by the county though, so anybody can use the ball field at any time of the day, so long as we don't really have a major event planned.
Right. Now, do they go through someone there, or do they have to go through the county to if they want to use that?
I would say either contact, probably get a hold of the real house, the West Springs housewives, or somebody we can put you in contact with the person. I don't really want to say their name out loud on the air.
Right. Okay. Well, that makes a lot of difference, because people just don't want to show up and all of a sudden take over the ball field or something when you got something planned.
Yes.
You used to have didn't you used to have a ball team out there? You used to play ball, or was that might have been many years ago that someone mentioned that?
Well, I mean, outside the West Springs High School, they played out there, but the churches, when the Union County had a church league softball, there were some games that were played out there. Most time they were events to raise money for a person in the community that was in financial need for something.
Well, see, that's something I didn't know. As far as you talk about West Springs High School,
Yes.
and that was back in what you remember?
Uh,
I know it had to be before you was born. I know.
Oh, what? Yes. My grandfather did graduate West Springs High School. He still had his high school ring that I was lucky enough to see before it was passed to my uncle. He has it right now. And there are some pictures that have been shared through the Union County Historical Society, I think, of some of the ball players out there, of some of the predominant names that I would recognize: the Lawsons, a West, or a Bogan, Lancaster, Hills. Cowans. They all are kind of the primary families out in West Springs when it was founded in the 1700s.
Wow. Now, tell me about. Let's tell everyone again. Do you know what the cost of the chicken stew is going to be, or
Not? I think they changed it, and I cannot remember.
Okay.
Because I was having a sidebar conversation about the Spook House at the time.
it was pints or quarts or different sizes?
I think they're quart size
Uh-huh.
that you can do takeout. But I would say get there about 4:30 if you plan on doing a takeout, because either a lot of them have already been spoken for. They called ahead and ordered them.
Wow.
Or you can take there's no limit that I know of how many quarts you can take home with you.
But you do run out quickly.
We do run out very quickly.
So you need to get it there, and it starts, when do they start?
I want to say about 4:30 that they will start serving the chicken stew, or 5 o'clock.
Okay, and the Spook House will begin?
We're trying for 7:45, 8 o'clock. It'll be around that time.
Okay, and when does it end? Just
whenever we can get the last person
people
through.
Okay, and that can be even 10, 11 o'clock if it's still lying out there,
1
right?
or 2 o'clock. It's going pretty late sometimes.
Oh, wow, that is late. I imagine y'all be wore out by then.
At the November the 1st will be a long day, and especially I got annual training the next day too, so it's going to be an extra long week for me.
So y'all have to, right after the 31st, you have to take everything down.
Not inside the Spook House, no.
Oh, you don't? Okay, you just leave it up?
It just stays up, then we'll get back in there the following year and
Just rearrange
it and start seeing what we want to do.
Oh, okay. I see that. Something I knew, didn't know that y'all, that you get.
The boogers have to live somewhere during the summertime.
Ah, that is right. They got to live somewhere. And again, there's no air conditioning, but we're very fortunate right now. We got air conditioning going with us right now.
That's right.
And tell people where the Spook House is at.
It's on Highway 215 in West Springs. If you want to search for it on Google, the West Springs Spook House should give you a hit, or search for the West Springs Ballfield Road. That should also be in the same location.
Okay. And anyone, if you don't know where it's at, look on our page here. We'll have a address or link where you can go to and find it very quickly. But all you got to do is go on Facebook and just say that, and somebody will know, won't they?
They will.
Especially in our area.
They will.
That's all you got to do.
And there's a little bit of history on the Facebook page that we've put in there too. You can see the early pictures of the West Springs Spook House when it was not a spook house.
Yeah, I did see that. Now, there was it looked like a barn or something. One of the pictures.
Well, it was white at one time, believe it or not. But it was kind of a barn, and it hasn't really been modified in any shape since it was converted to the West Springs Spook House.
Oh, okay. Well, David, I really appreciate you coming on here, and we're talking about this
Thank you,
because
Jerry.
they give people a heads up coming out there to see some new stuff. And don't think you came last year that you going to see the same thing. It's going to be totally different. And when you're there, I want you to come out and have a good time. That's the key thing, right?
Have a good time. We're here all to have a good time. And then please bring your family and bring your friends.
I like yeah, that's a rough guy on there, I tell you. All right, well, I'm Jerry McKee, and thank you, David, for being with us.
It's been my pleasure.
And stay tuned till next Monday. We got a special guest will be coming on here. He's going to talk about being a emergency room nurse at one of the biggest hospitals in Virginia, and talk about a little bit there. So y'all have a great, happy Halloween, and hey, get your fright on. That's right. It's coming up this Saturday, and also Halloween night. So don't let the ghouls get you.